Welcome back to the Federal Retirement Show. I'm your host, Val Majewski with American Benefits Exchange. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us and view our content. The purpose of this show, if you're new, is to provide you, the federal employee, with just accurate, honest information when it comes to your benefits and retirement situation so you can navigate through all the things that we believe you need to know so you can make the best decisions, the best choices, and set yourself up properly as you go through your working career and plan towards retirement. Now, as we do from time to time, we take questions from folks, or people will submit questions via our website, which is federalretirementshow.com. By the way, if you go there and you have a question or you need some information, you can fill out the form. We can reach out to you. Somebody, one of our representatives across the country, if it's not me personally, will be reaching out to go over your benefits, retirement situation, answer any of your questions. But we recently got a question from a federal employee that asked about, what happens if I pass away while I'm working? And we've touched on this before in previous episodes, but really haven't spent a ton of time. And the answer is not super complicated, but I just want to go in a little bit deeper and look at this situation. So again, the question came in. It said, what if, as a FERS employee, because most of you out there are FERS. If you're CSRS, I apologize. Reach out to us separately. We can go over that part. But for FERS employees, what happens if you pass away, if you die while still actively employed? Now, a lot of people have seen our episodes where we talk about survivor benefits in retirement. And that's going to be different because this is what happens if the retiree passes away first. You chose a survivor benefit option when you filled out your retirement paperwork. And now that just plays out, right? Your spouse will get whatever it is that you decided that he or she will get going forward if you die first in retirement. But let's say you hadn't gotten that far yet, right? What happens if you pass away first, but while working, while actively employed? So let's dive into today's topic again of what happens to a FERS employee if you die while actively employed. So a couple things here, right? And we're talking about death while actively. I'm going to keep reiterating this. Why? Because it's different than when you're retired. And there's a couple extra things in here that we're going to talk about. So first of all, in order for there to be a death benefit paid out, now I'm going to back up a second before I get into the content. There's a couple other things that your survivors, right, your spouse or beneficiaries will get that I'm not going to mention today. Because what I want to talk about, this is the FERS death benefit. But what else would your beneficiary or beneficiaries get? And they would get whatever your FEGLI is, right? Federal Employee Group Life Insurance, whatever was active at the time of death. They'll have to file a claim for that. Now, this is important because I said file a claim. OPM and Office of FEGLI, they don't just send out a check when you pass away, right? There's got to be a claim filed for your FEGLI benefits. And unlike maybe any outside life insurance policies you have, which I'll get into in a second, you don't have policy documents for FEGLI. So you beneficiary, if they don't know you have it, they may not know that they have to file a claim for it. So I would highly recommend have a copy of a claim form handy with a sticky note on there or some kind of instruction saying, hey, I have this, and you can stick it with your important documents. Talk to your beneficiary or beneficiaries about your FEGLI. That way they know if something happened to you that they're going to have to file a claim. But at worst case, a claim form with a sticky note saying, I have this, file this claim in the event something happened to me, and they'll get whatever your FEGLI is. There's a Social Security death benefit. It's very small, but there's a Social Security lump sum death benefit. Then there's the outside life insurance policies that you may or may not have. Your beneficiary or beneficiaries would file claims for those as well. So those are the things we're talking about. Life insurance. Something happens to you, whether you're actively employed or retired, your beneficiaries are going to file claims for those things. FEGLI, outside life insurance policies, Social Security, small death benefit. But just understand, these are things that your beneficiary is going to get in the event that you pass away. And we're specifically, again, talking about actively employed. So what happens from FERS? What happens from the federal government? What are the things that your beneficiary, in this case, a spouse, would be entitled to if you passed away while actively working? First of all, you have to have at least 18 months of credible service. 18 months of credible service as a FERS employee to qualify for some sort of death benefit. For your spouse to get the benefit, you've had to have been married for at least 9 months prior to death. So 18 months service, 9 months at least married. Then the first thing that you would get, or that your spouse would get, sorry, you wouldn't get it because in this case, we're talking about what happens if you pass away while actively employed. First thing your spouse would get would be the basic employee death benefit from FERS. Basic employee death benefit. Then, assuming that you had at least 10 years of service, there could be a survivor benefit that goes beyond that. Now, the first thing that basic employee death benefit, what is that? What is it? It's essentially 50% of your final salary. Okay, so whatever your final salary is, 50% of it, or if you happen to be one of those people who had a higher high 3 than their final salary, then they'll use the high 3. But let's say it's your final salary plus a certain amount. And that amount has steadily increased over the years. Currently, it's $42,607.52 on top of 50% of your final salary. So that is the first basic employee death benefit, right? Basic employee death benefit from FERS, something that your spouse would be entitled to if, again, have 18 months of service and been married at least 9 months prior to death. The second thing is the survivor benefits. Now, I mentioned earlier, for retirees, you are choosing survivor benefits when you're filling out your retirement paperwork. For those that are actively employed, you have not chosen a survivor benefit yet, but a survivor benefit will be granted to your surviving spouse if you have at least 10 years of service. So if you have at least 10 years of service at the time of death, your spouse will be entitled to 50% of the unreduced pension. Now, what does that mean? The unreduced pension is assuming that you were able, at the time of death, you were able to retire with full benefits, no reductions, whatever. Based on age or years of service or lack thereof, they will just calculate a full pension based upon your high 3, based upon your years of service at the time of death, and your spouse will be entitled to 50% of that going forward. So there's the basic employee death benefit, 50% of the salary plus $42,607 and change that they're going to be giving to the spouse. And if you have at least 10 years of service, then the survivor benefit, 50% of the unreduced pension calculation based on, the years of service and the high 3 at the time of death. So this is in addition to what I mentioned before, which was your FEGLI and other life insurances you have, plus the very small Social Security death benefit that they can give you. So understand, if you pass away while working, yes, your spouse will be entitled to something. So the question came from a federal employee, and the question was a concern that if they died before being eligible for retirement, that their spouse wouldn't get anything as far as an income, right? Because they hadn't yet chosen a survivor benefit. They hadn't yet retired. So how can the spouse get a retirement survivor benefit, right? And I clarified it for this federal employee, but I wanted to bring it up because others probably have this concern and have this question of what will my spouse get if I pass away while actively employed. So hopefully this information was valuable to you. I don't want anything to happen to anybody out there while you're working. I certainly want you to live long and happy into retirement before something happens. But just understand that if you did pass while working, that something will be provided to your spouse, and potentially, if you have at least 10 years, the survivor benefits going forward, 50% of what your pension would have been at the time of death. So as always, I appreciate you tuning in. I want you to like, subscribe, get notified wherever you're watching these podcasts, wherever you're watching these episodes, whether it's on our website, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. You'll be notified when new content comes out, and share this with others. There's others that you work with that can use this information, that need some guidance. This is a great starting point. And if they want to review their personal situation and take a deeper dive, reach out to us. You can go to our website again, federalretirementshow.com, fill out the form, and somebody will be in touch to do a full benefits and retirement evaluation. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention it before. If you do that at the completion of your evaluation, you get a free copy of my book, There's No Excuse, Your Guide to Maximizing Your Federal Employee Benefits. It's a nice little reference piece. People have given me great compliments on it. It's a very simple read, and I try to keep it as easy to understand as possible when it comes to benefits of retirement, but it is a a nice little reference piece for you to go back if you ever have questions when it comes to benefits and retirement. So thank you again. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to view our content, and look forward to seeing you on a future episode.